Knowing current styles, trends, and aesthetics is essential for your reselling online business. And in this video, I'm going to go over 3 keywords, 3 aesthetics that you should be sourcing and selling right now, going into summer of 2024. Hi everyone, my name is Bethany, and I, along with my husband Sean, run Trash Pandas Thrift. We are a 6-figure reselling business, and on this channel, we open the doors to all of our secrets, our tips, our tricks that we've learned in our personal experience running our business over the years, also that we can help you start or grow your reselling business too. And this video is probably the one that I am most excited to make. It is my personal passion, and it's honestly my favorite way of sourcing clothes to sell online on platforms like eBay, like Depop, like Poshmark, any platform at all online. And that is keywords. More than keywords, these are the style aesthetics that are behind those keywords, what power those keywords, and why they are perfect when listing items to sell. Now, this is a lot wrapped up into one, and the reason why I wanted to make this video like this is because it is so inherently important, not just to be like, okay, what keywords should I be putting in my listings, but to understand the style aesthetics behind those keywords so that number one, you can identify when you're outsourcing, okay, this dress perfectly fits this current trending aesthetic that I saw, and I know the exact keyword to use for it. And number two, to make sure you're not leaving items behind that are trending, that are honestly could be even more valuable than brands that you're looking for out when you're thrifting. And then after putting in that keyword, you are hitting those style aesthetics of things that people are looking to buy right now that you may have otherwise left behind. And the key to understanding that we're going to go through today is it's all around us, right? It's in popular culture, it's in our media, it's walking down the street and what people are wearing, what we're consuming, not just as consumers of secondhand fashion together, but the media we're consuming, the movies, the TVs, the songs, the events, celebrities on fashion shows, and celebrities on runways. It is all connected. Secondhand fashion and the market for it is huge. And not only that, is hugely influenced by pop culture, by all these things I mentioned, and it's what creates the style aesthetics that we should be sourcing as resellers. I always say that our number one tool as resellers is knowledge, and that knowledge comes from research, from understanding these trends in our culture and how that trickles down to clothing, the clothing that we should be selling. So let's do an example of this. One aesthetic that we're going to be talking about today is the Western cowboy cowgirl core. And I am a huge fan of this one, especially because me and Sean used to live in Austin, Texas. And honestly, the amount of just sheer cowboy cowgirl wear we used to find when sourcing is insane. Now, Western core, cowgirl core, cowboy core, that core at the end of that word is what makes the aesthetic, right? It is an aesthetic can kind of refer to a pop culture theme, right? Or it can refer to clothing. Like cowgirl or cowgirl core are the exact keywords that you would put in your listing if you had a Western themed item. So let's see how this trickles down from things that we're seeing in media and how now it relates to us as clothing resellers and how we're going to use that influence that the pop culture has on these aesthetics to use it to sell our items. So if you've not heard already, Beyonce came out with a new album, I think, earlier this month. So we're in May of 2024, and Beyonce came out with her album. What was it called? I think it was Cowboy Carter. Yeah, it was a fully cowgirl, Western-themed album. And one of those top songs that was playing everywhere on every social media platform was Texas Hold'em. And this launched a completely cowgirl core trend for summer 2024. And that's not to say the cowgirl trend hasn't already been rising over the years. If you saw in summer of 2023 last year, coastal cowgirl was another aesthetic that was pretty big and also resulted in us sourcing for that last summer too. So this is definitely honestly, it's the popularity has just risen over the years, right? We are seeing celebrities go out on red carpets with cowboy hats, with cowboy boots, especially in festivals like Coachella. People are wearing boho dresses, and then coupling it with cowboy boots on the bottom. It is absolutely everywhere in the media that we're consuming all around us. A good movie that we saw actually was the movie Nope. That was definitely cowboy themed too. What was another one? A Western TV show like Yellowstone. It is honestly in the content, in the media that surrounds us, and what's trickling down to the clothing that we're sourcing. So let's talk about, okay, Western, cowboy, cowgirl core. It's in the media. It's in our fashion too. What kind of elements can we look for when we're sourcing to capitalize on the Western core, cowgirl core, cowboy core? Honestly, one of my favorite fashion trends that we're going to talk about today, because there's so much, right? Fringe, leather, big belt buckles, big denim jackets for jeans, boot cut, flare jeans, exactly what you would put in your mind when you're thinking cowboy or cowgirl, but kind of with a twist too. What we're seeing is a lot of feminine, especially in cowgirl looks, inspired stuff. So if you look on social media platforms like Instagram or TikTok and you just search cowgirl outfit, cowgirl aesthetic, what you're going to see is very feminine style dresses, right? I'm thinking, I'll have Sean put up like a little picture, long tiered white maxi skirt. Then on the bottom, coupled with cowboy boots. I was doing some research, and cowboy boots this is not a secret, that cowboy boots are honestly a really great shoe style to sell. It's only increased. Depop was reporting an increase of 80% for search for cowboy boots. So that is just more proof of the way that trickles down to the clothing market. And it's not just boots either. It's belt buckles, fringe jackets, suede, Western, embroidered Western wear. Anything like that, anything that has to do with a cowboy aesthetic or cowgirl aesthetic. It could even be like, oh, a great one that I found the other day, I was so excited to find, was this tiny little baby tee, like a crop t-shirt, and it had a cowboy on it, and it was like a lasso, and they were just riding the horse. And that is a perfect example of honestly an item that might have less value a year, 2 years ago. But this year, because that is a trending aesthetic, I put cowgirl in there. Honestly, someone is going to buy that to wear in their cowgirl aesthetic outfit, and I could list that for more money, knowing I could use keywords like Western, cowgirl, cowgirl core, cowboy. The options are endless, and it's because that we're capitalizing on those trends that, number one, we can list for higher, and number two, bolos that were bolos before can even be better ones now. So that's one of my favorites of the three. The next one, I'm going to do this funny thing. Just right up front, I have this awful habit of calling everything my favorite. And me and Sean were talking about this the other day. I think of all clothing like my best friend. So I have like a million different best friends and a million different favorites. So you're going to hear me say that every single time, but it's not to be annoying. It's honestly because I love it so much. And I think that learning about, number one, not just, okay, what keywords do I need in my listing, but number two, why? Knowing the why behind it and understanding the process of what is this aesthetic, how did it happen, okay, how do I translate into clothing, and then three, what we just talked about, how do I get this in my listing, what keywords do I use? That's why it's my favorite. Okay, number two, and this is a huge one right now, is tennis core. So there was a new movie with Zendaya in it called Challengers. There was also a movie, I think in 2021, that was following Serena and Venus Williams. It was called King Arthur, I think. I'm looking at my notes. Yeah, King Arthur. Awesome tennis movies in pop culture recently that has only led to improving, skyrocketing the rise of athleisure skirts. We've seen a rise in retailers like Alo Yoga, Athleta, Lululemon, putting out more athletic skirts. And by that, I mean like, picture in your mind the classic pleated white tennis skirt. Skirt has little shorts underneath it, so it could be a skirt too. Now, that was already popular, right? Just like with cowboy, with cowgirl, with Western, that was already popular, the athleisure, right? Now it's even more popular because on top of already a popular category, we have the rise of tennis core. So when I'm listing a skirt from Alo Yoga, it's already a popular brand, right? It's already a popular style. I'm not only going to put skirt, athleisure, I'm going to put tennis core. I'm going to put tennis in there too. I'm going to put it, honestly, if it's a white skirt that looks like the one that Zendaya wore, I'm going to put challengers in my description. And that is only going to lead to me being able to list it for even more. And this trickles down too, right? It doesn't have to be from a popular brand from Aloe Yoga. This opens up the door to maybe you sourcing in a category. Maybe you're finding a bunch of athletic skirts and you're not picking them up and you have a low cost of good. This is the perfect opportunity to do just that. Athleisure is absolutely huge. It's been huge for quite a few years now, and especially going to summer 2024. No, I'm not a fashion expert. This is my job because it's what I love to do with reselling, and I truly love the research. But if you go ahead and do the Google searches yourself and see what I'm saying, it really doesn't look like it's dying down. It's only increasing with the rise of tennis core. There was like a brief thing I wanted to add in here too with pleated skirts in general is something that we have been sourcing for years, right? And I want to make it clear that yes, trends come and go. Trends can often be fleeting, but there are some trends that capitalize on popular styles and categories that have been popular for a long time. Fashion is cyclical, right? And as resellers, honestly, I'm not the most fashionable girl out there. Like if you were to see me walking down the street, I might not be wearing like 90% of the thing that we're sourcing. And that's totally okay because the idea, the whole point is to make use, capitalize on the trends, especially that are substantial. They are important. And often those are trends that have been leading up to this big bubble for years. That's what we saw with the Western trend that we talked about. It's what we saw with tennis core, with athleisure skirts. It has been leading from, okay, this has always been popular to, wait a minute. Now it has entered the general conscious. All the world is now looking, all of them, now they want it, and what better place to get it than the secondhand market? So there is some substance to the argument. It's hard to source for trends, right? When they're coming, they're going. It is such an awesome opportunity, number one, to capitalize, even if it is fleeting. And number two, that's why the ones I wanted to share with you today are not. They are tried, they are true. We have sourced boho, western, cowgirl stuff for years. We have sourced athleisure for years. And if you're already sourcing that, and they're in demand, so you should be, these are just awesome keywords that you can use to add even more value. So honestly, there's a few ways of thinking about it. And it can be hard at first to try to understand, to get your pulse on it, but it is so, so worth it in the long run. And hopefully with me explaining it to you this way, I want you to try to understand in your mind, how can I do this on my own? I want you to be able to search a trend, right? Western, cowgirl, cowboy, and go from the songs, from the movies that we're looking at. Look at what they're wearing, right? Like what is Beyonce wearing in her music video? Cowboy boots, cowboy hat, right? When she goes out, she wears a tiny little mini skirt, big belt buckle. Okay, you can translate that into exactly what you're sourcing. It's a formula that you can just rinse and repeat. Okay, let's move on to the third one. And this is going to be a big one, right? This is probably one of the biggest aesthetics trends that Sean and I have been sourcing for quite a few years now, just like the other two. And this is in a bulk category. They really should be separate, but 70s, 90s, and Y2K. And I'm going to call this section the rise of retro because, oh my God, I love vintage and so do secondhand buyers. You do not have to love vintage, but if you love money, if you love sourcing and you love reselling, this is it. Like number 3, if you're like, okay, number 1, number 2, number 3 is the one that you should listen to, you should pay attention to. And after this video, you should look up on eBay, Y2K, sort from highest to lowest when you go to hit sold, and memorize those comps. What is selling for the most in these categories? And that is exactly what I do. So why is 70s? Why is the 90s? Y2K fashion? Why is that trending? It has been on the up for years. When Sean and I first started selling on Depop in like 2022, Y2K was huge already, right? And it's only gotten bigger. There's a lot of reasons for this. It's in our culture, right? There is such a rise of nostalgia right now in our culture, in our movies, in our songs, right? We have 2000 movies like Mean Girls and Clueless, them being replayed in theaters for nostalgic, $5, right? Being on Netflix, being on like just more streaming services like that. It's everywhere, even on the runway, right? We have celebrities going out instead of in like thousands of dollar couture dresses, they're wearing Y2K. They're wearing Y2K dresses, a 2004 dress from a designer instead of a modern one. It is because of, in my opinion, this is my hypothesis, unique. Everyone wants to look unique. We are in the age of mass production, mass consumption, mass buying, and that leads to one thing: everyone looking the same. You can walk down the street and see 3 different people wearing the exact 3 pairs of jeans, and it probably wouldn't even be that surprising. I follow an Instagram page in New York where they just take pictures of people wearing the same exact outfit on a train. And there are so many pictures on this page. It happens over and over and over again. And this isn't to shame us, right? This is what is accessible to us. This is what our retail options have become. It is the same over and over from multiple stores. And it ends up with us buying these same things, with us looking similar. That is why the 70s, 90s Y2K fashion is huge. It is unique. It is different. The secondhand market and secondhand buyers want to look unique. They want to walk down the street and they want to be wearing something that no one else around them is wearing. They want to wear vibrant patterns. That's why whenever we talk about a video, what is my favorite thing to find? Patchwork quilted jacket, something just a jumpsuit, flowers all over it, flare, right? Those are both 70s. I'm a huge fan of 70s. I'm a huge fan of 70s fashion, but it's not just because I love the 70s and I'm so excited to source stuff like that. It's because I know how much money we can get for that item just because it's unique. And this is in so many different categories of clothing too. A huge one that you can look out for right now are prom dresses. We're in May, so if this is, people are still having prom into June. Honestly, even events, not just prom, like bridal showers and weddings and events and concerts, instead of normal event dresses, formal dresses, we're seeing, especially in younger generations, in Gen Z and millennials, them wearing vintage dresses, vintage Y2K dresses and 90s dresses especially. I'm thinking about a vintage Betsy Johnson dress, silk. She's beautiful. She is fit. She's flare. She's got chiffon. And people would much rather buy that $100, maybe $200 Y2K Betsy Johnson dress than new formal event prom dresses can go for almost $1,000. And you might run into someone wearing the exact same one as you. Whereas you have this gorgeous vintage Betsy Johnson dress that no one else is probably wearing and you stand out. That, I think, is the logic, the consumer logic behind it. And that is exactly what I put in the front of my mind when sourcing. This is especially common in festival wear. And this is another great keyword to use when you're sourcing 70s, 90s, Y2K style clothing, festival. And when I'm thinking festival, I'm thinking large summer concerts, festivals like Coachella. Look at pictures. Google Coachella outfits, and I want you to look at what they're wearing. It is hugely, hugely influenced by Y2K fashion. Little micro mini skirts, right? Crochet cardigans, crochet, 70s, 90s skirts, 90s slip skirts, 90s slip dresses. There was a really popular one that was trending in Google search, Charlie D'Amelio, which is like a influencer. She's a TikTok star. She wore a fully sheer gown, completely Y2K, and it blew up. It absolutely blew up. That is just one example of Y2K fashion, right? The skirts, the crochet from the 70s. There are so many different bolos you can look out for Y2K fashion, and it is an untapped category if you're not sourcing for it. And if you already are, there are so many more. This is for 90s fashion too. It's all connected. I mean, There's just so much, honestly. I wish I could go through every single one of them, but we would probably be here for 3 hours, right? Go ahead and search that eBay sold comp, just like what I was talking about, and you'll see those mesh tops. You'll see bolos like vintage Betsy Johnson, gowns, those mini skirts, and that is exactly how you learn A, can this fit? Does this looks kind of 90s, that looks kind of Y2K, and two, bolos that you might be passing up at the thrift store, not knowing that they're valuable. Coogie sweaters, right? That's another one. There are so many bolos. There is so many vintage bolos. One of my favorites for the 70s is, some 70s pop culture references before I move on. It is so intertwined with the 90s, with Y2K, with nostalgia. I immediately thought of when I was sitting down to write about what I was inspired by for this video. There was a Margot Robbie movie, and I could not remember the name of it. I searched up all her movies, and I found it. It was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Look up what she was wearing. I'm just obsessed. That is exactly what I'm talking about. That 70s hippie disco vibe. She was wearing these like boots, the turtleneck, everything. And that just it expands even farther than that. It expands when I'm looking for modern. Even when I'm sourcing for anything, I'm thinking about inspired pieces. Okay, that was a lot. I think that this is a great example of how much there truly is. And if this video has been helpful to you, I urge you to take those next steps. Take every single aesthetic that I just talked about, Google it, and then go on eBay and punch it in there and check out what people are selling. Look at the keywords they're selling. Also, what are they using in their title? What are the brands that are selling best? You're going to see a lot of the ones that I mentioned and tons more. Probably ones that I have never even heard of, and that is why we keep learning, we keep researching, and we stay on top of pop culture, of these trends, so that Western, cowboy, cowgirl core, tennis core, and 70s, 90s, Y2K, those are things that we can use right now in summer of 2024 to capitalize on those style aesthetics. And this is how we become better resellers. This is everything. This is the key. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you have a great day, and thank you so much for listening. See ya.